Welcome back to another episode of Meredyth with a Y. I am your host, Meredyth Willits, and today I am honored to have on the podcast Dr. Carole Lieberman. She's a board-certified forensic psychiatrist. She is the podcast host of The Terrorist Therapist and also Dr. Carole's Couch with her new book coming out, Lions, Tigers, Terrorists, Oh My. And I am also joined by Chad Kultgen, and he is the co-host of the Necessary Conversation podcast. And we are getting into all things today, so stay with me. Hello, everyone. This is Meredyth with a Y, and I am your host, Meredyth Willits. Today, we are going to go deep, changing lives, and I am giving you the keys to the castle. Thank you guys so much for being on the podcast today. I'm super excited to get into all things politics and terrorism and so on and so forth. So thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
As well.
Yeah. So I was going through your PR information, Dr. Lieberman, and you've been on Newsmax, you've been on Fox News. And one of the things that really stuck out to me is your stance on Trump derangement syndrome. So can you tell us a little bit about that piece?
Sure. I have been working for about, March to October, something like that. 6 or 7 months already. God, it's taking a longer time than I expected, but I have been working on putting together a proposal for the American Psychiatric Association to include the diagnosis of Trump derangement syndrome in their next DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual book. And the reason why it's taking so long is because, well, first of all, one reason is because in the news, there keeps being more and more people who have it, who I can't leave out, you know.
Yeah, you named one of them as the Pope.
Hey, yeah. Can I ask you one question, Dr. Lieberman, real quick? Or two questions, I guess, in one. I'm not totally familiar with what Trump derangement syndrome is. Could you explain that and maybe like a couple of symptoms or something, how you would diagnose this?
Yes, absolutely. Basically, it is a syndrome where people have, it's a quasi-psychotic syndrome where people have lost all rationality when it comes to their opinions, their feelings towards Trump. And instead, they are totally motivated by these feelings, by these strong emotions.
And this is something that affects the right or the left?
Not the right. No, it's the left.
Okay, sorry.
People who is that all right? No, good. I have to explain it better, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. It's people who think Trump is the worst thing that ever happened to America.
Okay.
And they think that not because of any particular policies, you know, but because of just how they feel about him as a man.
Okay.
And so, yes, it's the left. And it's people who, you know, anybody could have it, but typically it is for men. Well, it's for both genders. It's people who, when they were growing up, had a lot of problems with authority, notably their parents, and then other authorities figures, and as though they, you know, they are more likely to have Trump derangement syndrome. Also, for men, it's men who don't have a life that is as stereotypically perfect as Trump seems to me. In other words, it's like what parents think they want their sons to be: rich, powerful, marry a beautiful woman and a wonderful woman, not just beautiful.
Cheat her with a porn star and pay that porn star to keep quiet.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Is that part of Trump derangement syndrome?
Well, I think that what's like kind of pulling me around. So it doesn't seem to be quantitative. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem to be quantitative enough to be able to get a diagnosis.
Well, no, yes, it is. That's why it's
Okay.
taking so long.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It's not just any old person, who doesn't like Trump. I have specific diagnostic criteria, and I have it divided into mild, moderate, and severe.
Mm-hmm.
So mild, I sort of generously put the women of The View in the mild category. I put the Pope in the mild category because I said we aren't able. It's not. We don't know enough about him with certainty to say that he has TDS. But I must say, I wrote that when he first became Pope. But over the months, we have seen that he more and more that he has TDS. But so they're in the mild. Then the moderate. Well, I actually.
Quick question. You said that people who have this tend to judge him not on the quality of his character and what he's done and what he says, but they just hate him because of who he is without knowing or not looking at those. Like, so if you hate Trump, it's going to be, and you have Trump derangement syndrome, it's separate and away from anything that he does or says.
No. It's just an illogical reaction to what to him as a man. And yes, it can include what he does and says. But like, for example, even with mild TDS, you ask somebody, these are the people who throw their shoes at the television when he comes on, for example, and you ask them what it is that you don't like about Trump. And they can't really give you a specific thing that they don't like. Oh, he's just a horrible man. He's just awful. He's, a fascist. And then with moderate TDS, it is even they feel even more strongly emotionally as compared to what they know about him logically. And then in the serious serious category, or severe category, I mean, it's people like Letitia James or like Comey or like some of the judges who are making decisions to not let people be returned back to their countries. Of course, we have the assassins or attempted assassins, in there.
Do you think that like the people that are against people being returned to other countries, is it that they just don't want anyone returned, or is it the idea of being returned without due process?
Well, I think different people take it to different levels. Some without due process, some just in general. But I was going to say the one that I just added yesterday was the young man who shot up the church in Minneapolis because he had kill Trump on one of his on the ammunition. I put him. Let's see. I think I did have him in. I put him in severe. I was trying to think between moderate and severe, but he did. Putting it on a bullet is pretty significant. So,
people on the right who commit political violence are not. They do not have Trump derangement syndrome. Is that accurate?
The people,
I think there's information coming out about one of these most recent mass shootings that just happened
in Michigan.
yesterday.
Yeah, the church yesterday.
Yeah, that guy was like a massive Trump supporter, had Trump signs in his yard and all that.
Right. No, I don't think he had TDS.
Okay. He had maybe Biden derangement syndrome.
I mean, I don't think, like, in other words, he didn't shoot at the church because of Biden or Trump. It was because he hated the Mormons. Because they apparently, so far, what's come out is that they were rejecting him because of his tattoos.
Mm-hmm. I haven't read any of that.
Okay. Because we just need more information about him. But he was in the Marines and he had PTSD and he had problems with alcohol when he got back. So, but he had joined the Mormon Church, and then I think he was like being ostracized or something. There's something to do with the church. I don't think it has anything to do with Trump or Biden.
But the bottom line of Trump derangement syndrome, if I'm understanding all this correctly, is it's something that affects people's behaviors in response to a psychological reaction they have to Trump in some capacity that you perceive as irrational.
To be honest, I think if I could just be taken off for a minute and get my Trump derangement folder, because I didn't realize we were going to be talking about this today. I can give you more examples and more specifics. It's very detailed.
I mean, you don't have to. It's okay. I mean, we have the general gist. I think is like, you don't like Trump. You don't like him for any reason. Do you think that anyone doesn't like Trump for a good reason?
I'm not saying there's no reason to dislike Trump. I was told that we were going to be talking about Kohberger.
Who's that?
I mean, I'm happy to talk about Trump. I just need to have my information with me, so I will be right back.
Okay.
Bye.
I hope she doesn't shut it down. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see what
blurry.
Happens. Who's Kohberger? I don't know about this.
I don't either.
Right now, Kohberger. I hope I'm spelling this right.
I'm gonna have to.
Brian Kohberger.
Yes, Brian Kohberger.
Brian Kohberger. Birthday cards is Brian Kohberger.
Okay, here we go. Yes, Brian Kohberger. I mean, I'm happier to talk about Trump derangement syndrome, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I'm very curious about it. I mean, I was going to ask you this. What is
that's from a long time ago.
What kind of treatments do you recommend or have you designed to treat TDS?
Well, depending upon whether the person fits into the mild, moderate, or severe, it would be different things. But so, for example, for the people who have very, very mild TDS, I recommended one could try what's called like logical therapy, logic-based therapy, where you try to talk about things logically, like why don't you like this policy that he enacted and so on. But that's not going to work for most people, because they'll just leave therapy. But for other people, it would be, I recommend individual therapy, and I recommend if there's a marital problem, a lot of people are getting divorced because one person has TDS, and so couples therapy or family therapy. For some people who have some psychotic symptoms, which can be associated with this, then I would recommend medication under the treatment of a psychiatrist.
Okay. Let me ask you one question, or actually, we're on a podcast, probably multiple, but I like to do things very scientifically. So very like if then cause and effect, there's this, then that. So for example, his new policy that he's come out with there's 100% tariffs on imported medication and pharmaceuticals. So Tylenol, Advil, blood pressure medication, things of that sort. If someone were taking, like, let's say blood pressure medication, and they rely on that to stay alive, would it then be Trump derangement syndrome if they hated him because they could no longer afford their medication? So they have an issue. He has imposed a policy. It affects them directly, not like I heard about. And then they despise him and have hate for him. Would that be Trump derangement syndrome because they have a very specific reason?
Not necessarily, no. Let me read you the definition that I created. Trump derangement syndrome is an irrational, quasi-psychotic hatred of anything Trump, resulting in rage and over-the-top efforts to destroy him and his work. It can spread to people and projects that are closely associated with him. So we had the Tesla debacle, where people hated Elon Musk because he was working with Trump. Then we have J.D. Vance. I don't know if you heard recently he talked about how he went to Disneyland and people were following him, and he was with his kids, and they were yelling thing at his kids, get rid of your father's horrible, he works with Trump, that kind of thing. And then they blamed him also for the death of the Pope, Vance.
Oh.
That was kind of a joke, though. Let me ask you this, though, if I may. There are a lot of similarities between Trump and his current MAGA party and what was happening with the Nazis in Germany. There are many. Stephen Miller basically gave an almost verbatim speech recounting a Nazi speech. They're culling all the generals together to get them.
This is why we have the violence in the streets that we have, because people are comparing him and his policies or the people around him to Nazis. I'm not going to participate in this.
Okay. I'm just asking you this. If that is the case, and there are parallels, you can't deny that. We're seeing masked men kidnapping people in the streets. There are parallels.
Oh my God. I wish I could spend an hour.
No, but
I'm not kidnapping them.
Okay.
They are illegally here. Number one, they've committed a crime, and they are taking them to these places to then work on deporting them.
Okay. But you do admit there are masked men in our streets that are unidentified.
And you know why they're masked?
Yes,
why
I do.
Think they're masked.
They're to hide their identities.
People have been doxing them and their family and trying to harm them. Okay. That's why they're masked. It's not
part of the job. If you're a law enforcement officer, part of the job is you have to deal with the community that you're enforcing the laws in. And if that's what happens as a result of your actions.
To be doxed? Do you think that it's okay to dox police and ICE and all that?
No, I don't personally think that's okay, but that is what is part of that job now. And you accept those risks when you take it, as well as the $50,000 signing bonus. So all I'm saying is this. There are clear parallels happening. And if you see those and you speak against them, do you think that that's a mental illness?
I think if somebody sees that he is like Hitler, that is a mental illness.
Interesting. Why would you?
Even if you find very specific parallels.
You do know that these shootings that we've been having, right? Like of Charlie Kirk, and the one in Minneapolis, the one in Michigan. I mean, well, I don't know about the one in Michigan yet because we don't know enough about him. Sure. But it's these leftist speeches, like it started during the campaign. When Kamala didn't have anything smart to say, so she just was saying bad things, trying to say bad things about Trump. Like they didn't have policies, so they just tried to put down Trump. And ultimately, in the end, when he was in his last week or whenever end of the campaign, that's when they started calling him Hitler, or maybe they were calling him that before, but that's when it became well known that they were calling him.
I mean, if you really want to go back, there was an interview he did with Vanity Fair in the mid-90s where a reporter spent some time with him, including at his house, and he had a copy of Mein Kampf on his nightstand that he referenced multiple times to that reporter. I think he was the one who gave us the idea that he liked Hitler.
There are a lot of university professors who have, or even just people who are also people like religious people and so on, who have that, not because they want to believe in it or because,
Sure. But he has it sitting on his nightstand knowing a reporter for Vanity Fair is coming over to take pictures and see how he lives. He put that out on display.
Okay. So obviously, he didn't feel that there was anything
wrong with studying the teachings of Hitler. I agree.
Not that he was going to be copying Hitler. Obviously, he didn't feel that he wasn't worried at that time that people were going to say that he was Hitler.
Yeah. Well, that's where we are now. And look, I'm not here to say anything about the motivations of any of these killings. I think they're all bad. I condemn all kinds of violence, political or otherwise. The fact is, though, you have an administration right now that is run by Trump, and I mean, really, it's run by the billionaires, but whatever. He's the figurehead of it. And we have more political violence in this country than we've had in my lifetime, certainly. Maybe not as much as in the 60s, but it's getting close. They're the ones in charge. Why aren't they stopping it?
They are trying to stop it.
They're failing, though. They're making it worse. You have to admit that.
What about Washington, D.C.?
What about?
They just cleaned up.
They brought in,
They just
people.
moved homeless people. I don't think they did anything to do with crime. It was homeless people, and then they spent $1 million a day cleaning up trash.
Whatever they did, it made it more safe. They have people talking about how now I can go out to dinner.
That's fine, but I'm simply saying we just saw on Sunday there were 3 mass shootings in one day. We've had more than 1 mass shooting per day this year.
Saying yes, and I'm saying this is the left that is using all this hysterical rhetoric
that is
getting people angry and getting them to act out.
You can put the blame wherever you like, and for whatever reason. The fact remains Donald Trump and the MAGA party are in control of the entire government, the entire country, and it's not changing, it's getting worse. So whatever policies they're implementing or failing to implement are making the problem worse.
No, it is getting worse because Soros is putting more money into this and paying people to have these riots.
Well, then why doesn't Donald Trump do something about that?
He is doing something. He just went to Portland.
There were 3 mass shootings one day ago. He's doing nothing about this.
How can you say that? First of all, he can't solve everything, but the mass shootings
in a calendar year, he's made things worse in terms of gun violence. I mean, in terms of multiple other things.
It's not that he's made it worse. The leftist party has made it worse by rebelling against him in these violent ways.
Oh, no dissent is what you advocate.
They've proven that the protests have been peaceful, and that bringing in the military can be more problematic than good.
You're listening to the fake news, obviously. The protests aren't peaceful. Some may be peaceful, but certainly the majority aren't.
We had the largest peaceful protest in the history of Chicago just like a few weeks ago.
Okay, so some protests might be peaceful, but
they brought in the military. The military is there right now, marching in downtown Chicago, where there's like zero crime, and it's weird.
Downtown Chicago, where there's zero crime.
Like literally, I was just there by myself, walking the streets all night. Like there's people out to dinner. They're on the Riverwalk. They're on Michigan Avenue. It feels very over the top.
Okay, but it wasn't that way. It didn't used to be that way. So Trump you can't have it both ways. On the one hand, you're saying there's more violence and you're blaming it on Trump. On the other hand, you're saying there's no violence and you're blaming it on Trump.
No, there's more politically motivated violence for sure. And these kind of lone wolf shooters, mass shootings and stuff. I want to, if I may, Dr. Lieberman, I want to ask you, I assume you're a Trump supporter. I assume you voted for him both times.
Yes.
Okay. I want to ask you this question.
Not only that, but the first time, or no, not the first time, the second time, I actually, but the second time with Biden, I actually, and I was doing a lot of interviews talking about how Biden has encroaching dementia.
Sure.
And I was trying to warn people, you're going to elect a man who has encroaching dementia. And the reason why I was able to tell that is because as a forensic psychiatrist and expert witness, I have had a number of cases where, about competency, like where people are arguing over a will or something like that. And one person says, Dad wasn't competent when he took me out of the will, that kind of thing. So I recognized it right away. But of course, he sort of won. That's a whole other issue. But whoever, I know he didn't really. But you're going to go.
I'm listening.
But anyway, whoever voted for Biden weren't necessarily voting for Biden. They would have voted for a parakeet if anybody except Trump.
Of course, I'm one of those people. Okay. I don't like Biden either. I never did. And I think he should not have tried to run again. Obviously, that was we all saw that he was having cognitive decline, especially in that one debate, which was the kind of like nail in the coffin. We all saw that. I'm not disputing that at all. But the questions I want to ask you is this. You now have leveraged your professional reputation on this idea that you are diagnosing a new mental disorder and you're trying to get it in the DSM. Now, I just want to go back in time to your childhood, if I may.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Are you going to find the roots of my
Yeah, I do this with my parents. You remind me a lot of my mom, actually, and I think
There we go. So this is why you don't like me.
no, I love my mom. I'm
Okay.
curious about
I
like
grew up in New York City.
okay, New York City.
I was born in the Bronx.
Okay.
I lived there till I was 5. Then we moved to Flushing and then to Forest Hills. And then I went to college at Stony Brook. Then I went to medical school at the University of Louvain in Belgium. Then when I came back, I did my sub-internship in Connecticut. And then I did my regular medical internship at the New York Infirmary. And then I did psychiatry at NYU Bellevue, where I was chief resident.
Oh, wow.
Something perhaps what made me become a psychiatrist is I had decided I wanted to be a doctor. What made me pick psychiatry was when I was a teenager and I read Freud's interpretation of dreams.
Sure.
And in the end, in my last year of residency, I spent 3 or 4 months in London with Anna Freud. This was right before she died.
Oh, wow. That's
Wow.
wild. That's really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what can you analyze from, and yes, I have been,
so you're interested in how the human mind works, as are we all, I think, to one degree or another. You've taken it to a very high level. But my next question is, what was the first presidential election you voted in, and who did you vote for?
Oh, God. I don't remember. I think it was when I was in medical school.
Okay.
And I had just become old enough to vote. And I voted by ballot, by mail-in ballot. I do not remember who.
Glad you had it back then, because maybe we're not going to have that pretty soon via Trump.
Yeah.
But okay, so you don't remember who you voted for, but
I was not really that much into politics.
Yeah, nobody was when you're young that age. I remember my first election. I was like, yeah, whatever. I think I voted for the Green Party or something, just to be like a contrarian piece of shit when I was 20. Like none of us were as into politics as any of us are now. I think this country is hyper political at this point.
Yes.
It's our favorite reality show, and we have a reality TV show host as our president. But the reason I ask these questions is because I found it helpful with my parents to try and like get them to reconnect with the person they were before Trump, before the current political climate. Because, and I was going to ask you this question too, I think Trump is the singularly kind of polarizing political candidate, at least in my lifetime. I don't think we've seen anything like it, where people who are into him are fucking, my parents are included, buying the shoes, buying the cologne, wearing the t-shirts. They've got it all, it's like a cult. And the people who are very against him are the exact opposite, against him in that same kind of measure. So I was just going to ask you, like, in your lifetime, in your politically active lifetime, has there ever been a president like Trump where you felt compelled to go so hard against his detractors that you want to label them with a legitimate mental illness based only on him?
Well, the president who I hate the most is Obama.
Okay, now we're getting into my dad territory.
And my mom territory.
I mean, we are, it's amazing that we survived Obama.
What did you hate about him the most, if I may ask?
Well, first of all, he is a terrorist, in my opinion. He is certainly a terrorist sympathizer, and he was the most sympathetic to terrorists of any president we've ever had. And I think
didn't Osama bin Laden get killed under his regime?
Yeah,
or his presidency.
He gave the actual order.
Yes, he did, but it had been going on. Supposedly he did. I think he did. Yes, I think that was really him.
He also killed more people in the Middle East with drone strikes than any president in history, including Trump.
And deported more people than Trump.
He became BFFs with Iran and some other countries in the Middle East. He studied at a madrasa when he was a child for several years. Okay. I think it's his childhood that really, that's when people, children in Middle Eastern countries, terrorist Middle Eastern countries, start learning the madrasa, start learning about terrorism, start learning about Islam when they're like 4 years old, when they can go to school for the first time. But
so anyhow, Obama fired you up.
He was very anti-Israel. He hated Israel. He did as much as he could he gave Iran billions and billions of dollars that they then gave to Hamas and their other terrorist proxies. So so anyhow, in fact, with Obama, I used to be before 9/11, I used to be my number one sort of passion or goal, thing that I was trying to help in America was about media violence. And I testified before Congress several times about the dangers of media violence, how it makes people violent. And so during those years, lots of years, I protested outside of movie theaters. I stopped the Schwarzenegger rocket. Do you remember the Schwarzenegger rocket from 1993? It was supposed
what
to be
movie would that have been? Running Man? Something like this?
It was, what was it? It was, okay.
Angle All the Way?
Last Action Hero.
Last Action Hero. Okay. Yeah.
So I stopped that because I thought it's how outrageous to send a rocket up with an ad on the outside for Last Action Hero. It was going to be the first time that ever happened. Anyway, I stopped it. So that was my passion, doing all these, being against media violence. Then 9/11 happened, and that's when I, took that as my project because as I was saying, I think that's the most dangerous thing that we're going to be facing. So how did I get into this?
Well, I was just asking you about kind of like your journey to this point of like extreme support for Trump. So Obama was kind of the catalyst. You had an extreme hatred for him.
Right. Wait, I was going to say, so while I was on my media violence, campaigns, I was talking to people about how they shouldn't buy toy guns for their kids, which I still kind of think. But I was sort of against guns in general. I was talking about how there's studies that show that if you have a gun in your house, you're more likely, someone in the house is more likely to get killed than an intruder. So I was all over that. But then when Obama became president, that's when I realized, oh, this is why we have the Second Amendment. We do need to have guns. Because we can't just assume that the presidents are going to be beneficent, or just going to love us all.
But the reason the Second Amendment exists is so that the citizenry can form militias to fight against government tyranny, basically sending troops into your cities and saying, we're here to do whatever we want. Trump is the one who's actually doing something along those lines, which Obama never did. But I just want to get back to this point real quick. So Obama is kind of what hypercharges your interest in politics, you would say?
To a greater extent, yes. Okay. I mean,
and so whoever comes after him that's a Republican, you're going to go all in for. It happens to be Trump.
No, not necessarily. I didn't feel that strongly about any president, to tell you the truth.
Until Trump. Now let me ask you this. My mom feels
against Obama, like I was just explaining. Okay. But I didn't feel strongly for anybody in particular. I mean,
but don't you find that kind of interesting that for some reason this one guy has you literally putting your professional career on the line to try and get a mental illness that's based on his identity put in the DSM?
Our country has changed a lot over the years.
Sure. Yeah.
And when I was not so interested in politics, it was when life was good.
Yeah, we all remember.
I agree with that.
And it was before 9/11, and it was when I wasn't as concerned about the United States surviving.
Yeah.
Now I am, and like I was saying about 9/11, when it was happening, and I at the time my daughter was at Barnard, so she was right there in Manhattan. She had just started Barnard, and so the whole thing was very profound. And that is when I started paying more attention to our security and all of that, and to the policies of presidents towards terrorism. Now, Trump, in his first term, he did a great job against terror. He destroyed the caliphate in the Middle East and all that. He certainly is pro-Israel, and that's very important to me. Mm-hmm. And especially with there being more anti-Semitism and more anti-Israel, this is, if I had to pick a key reason why, I mean, there are lots of things. I went to the inauguration. There are a lot of things. So I'm, yes, a diehard.
Yeah.
So there were, and when he was signing the the executive orders. I agreed with all of them.
That's an interesting point. Have you ever disagreed with Trump?
Yeah, there are some things that
What is a good example of that, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, well, I should say that I don't, like, you were asking about the tariffs. That's not a topic that particularly interests me. So I really haven't paid much attention to what he's specifically doing with the tariffs.
Okay.
You know, I can say honestly, what is there anything else that there was something. I don't remember what it was, but there was something. I mean, I don't just 100% rubber stamp everything, but I take the, look at the positives and if there's a negative or if there's something I don't know about.
Do you think that women have a reason to not like him based on his like rape charges, 34 count felon, or the thing with the porn star? Like, people might look at him and be like, God, you were sleeping with another woman when you were married and tried to pay her off. Like, those types of things might cause women to be like frustrated with him at the very least. And even though it might not be a policy, it might be like an internal situation. Most women have experienced sexual abuse in some way, shape, or form, or they know someone, period. I'm sure you do. And so like those types of things might get a woman or someone that's adjacent to a woman to look at him and go, they can't all be lying. Like, he's hanging out with Epstein, pointing at girls,
Wait a
all
minute.
these
Well,
things.
he hung out with Epstein in the early years. Once Epstein took he didn't. There is nobody who has said that he did anything sexual with any woman. Certainly no underage woman. Ghislaine Maxwell said that he didn't. Roberta, the main victim, Roberta, what was her? She has two. Her two last names. You know who I'm talking about. The main.
I'm not sure.
One who just committed suicide recently. Joffrey, Roberta Joffrey. She has said that Trump never before she committed suicide. She said that Trump never did anything with any. She never saw him do anything with anybody sexual.
Isn't he accused though? Isn't there was like a 13-year-old girl that accused him?
Yeah, she's done and wrote a whole affidavit about it. I'm just saying, let's just like maybe just the fact that he cheated on his wife with a porn star, tried to pay her off. Let's just take that before he was even president, or hearing him say out of his own mouth, I grab him by the pussy because that's what I do. And you can do that. And I get the 70s. I get the 80s. I grew up then. I was a car salesperson. I've heard it all. So like, I get locker room talk, but also it can make people go, man, he's kind of a jerk. He's kind of a creep. I mean, there's
some people,
that.
it did make go that. Yes. All the people who voted for Kamala. Yes. I'm not that disturbed by it. I mean, I'm not saying it's great. That's wonderful. That's one of his best characteristics, all these things that you mentioned. But there are so many things that are so much more important, that he is doing.
Mm-hmm. But in your mind, there is no possible way you could look at all the things Trump is doing and see them as authoritarian.
Yes, but
okay.
I mean, he certainly. Well, I'm not sure what you mean. I mean, not Hitler authoritarian.
Yeah,
but
Hitler, yes, Mussolini, fascism.
Not Mussolini. He's strong, and he's trying to save America in the 4 years that he has. I mean, I think Vance is great. At the beginning, I kind of wondered, who is this guy and all that, but he's turning out to be great.
But the playbook they're using is exactly the same as these other authoritarian fascist countries have done in the past.
The what that he's using?
The playbook. Basically Project 2025, largely authored by Stephen Miller, who's kind of the puppet master of all of this. But it's all the same stuff. It's putting military in the streets. It's pointing your finger at the other, which in this case is illegal immigrants, and then putting them in detention camps. I think we can agree Hitler did that as well. Yes?
Hitler did it for a totally different reason. They weren't illegally on
well, a different reason, sure, but he rounded up people and put them in camps.
There are terrorists.
If we blame a person, like the Jewish people were in Europe were blamed for they othered them, right? And then they said they're the problem. This is all of their fault, the demise of Germany. And so we are going to get rid of the problem. And that was what happened then. If you other a group of people and blame any group of people if you blame, and then you are also the person to then save the country from those people.
But he's saving the country from criminals. He's also against,
That's not true, though. The stat just came out last week. There are now most of the people in detention that ICE has rounded up have no criminal record. More don't than do at this point.
Well, they're looking into all of that, but the point is,
they're not. That is the point. They're not looking into any of it.
If you're saying
they're just saying you don't speak English, get in the van.
But yeah, I think they did say that the Supreme Court did come out and say that if you have a low-paying job, speak another language, and appear to be illegal, then they are allowed to detain you.
Okay.
Which is, I think that's crazy. Like if we said that about any other in our country, people would be like, what do you like women? Like, I don't know, Catholics, Jewish people. People would go crazy.
He's saying this about people who are criminals, and
they're not criminals. That's just what I'm telling you. Half of the people now in detention.
But wait a minute, they're criminals by having come here illegally.
No, there are people who are. Do you know like what the immigration process, how it works?
To some degree.
Okay, I mean, I'll give you a quick precursor because I think it's important to know. If you don't know the details of it, it's important. So there's a bunch of different ways you can apply for citizenship. You can do it through a family connection. You can do it through marriage. You can do it through a job. You can do it through asylum. If your country is in dire straits, you can try to seek asylum here. All of these things require you to get an initial visa based on whatever that first kind of point of connection to the United States is. Once you have that visa, it will give you 3 years, 5 years, 90 days if it's a K-1, which is a spousal visa. And in that time, you have to do certain actions to prove that you are here legally, lawfully, whatever. While the visa is happening, you are here legally. You are in the country legally, and you're going through different steps, having court appearances, having interviews, getting a job, potentially paying your taxes, all of this. Most of the people that ICE is now rounding up are in that visa period. They are here legally, but they don't yet have full citizenship. But they are throwing those people in these detention
which can take 10 years and $10,000.
So it's like what those people are doing it correctly. They are doing it legally, but ICE has been mandated to deport X amount of people per day. And so they have the people in ICE don't have a choice. They're like, well, we got to meet our quota. And they clearly don't care about it.
At some point, it will come out.
But it's out now. That is coming out now. I'm telling you, it's out.
Yeah, okay, so it's coming out. So that, I mean, they're going to be making determinations as to what they're going to be doing with each of these people.
They're gone. Those people are in third world countries, in mega prisons in El Salvador. They are not determining anything. They're disappearing, these people.
Well, okay. Well, I don't have the statistics. I do agree with the general principle of getting people. So many people have crossed the borders who shouldn't have, who were criminals in their country, and who created criminal acts here.
I'm not disputing that, but this is how this works in authoritarianism. The dear leader points his finger and says, all these criminals are coming across. And it's like, great, they round all of them up.
We know that. It's not, Trump isn't the only one saying that.
I know. That. I'm saying it too. There are criminals coming across the border for sure. And that's how it starts, with a legitimate target to say.
Hitler wasn't just doing it because, yes, the Jews were blamed, for all the problems, blah, blah, blah. But it was also because of the bloodlines. He wanted to have a pure German bloodline. There's nothing like that Trump is trying to do.
Donald Trump has literally said they are making the blood of America impure. He literally said it. I'll get you the exact quote.
I think my biggest thing is, when it comes to this, is, we have to look at, it would have to be, Trump derangement syndrome would have to be so case by case, and it would be annihilated if you said, I don't like him because of a very specific reason.
Okay, well, wait a second. I obviously stayed here a lot longer than I thought we were going to be talking, but it's important that
I agree.
This is
Here,
important stuff.
if I may, I've got this quote.
And
Trump
I
said
want
that,
to tell you the because I need to give you some examples of the criteria that I put for this slight for the
can I just
mild,
real quick
moderate.
give you this quote?
Chad, go
Before
ahead.
example,
Sure,
this is literally a quote from Donald Trump during a rally in Durham, New Hampshire in 2024. This is when he was running. Trump said, "Illegal immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country." Does that sound like Hitler to you?
I need to. It's taken out of context. I need to know.
No, my mom does this too. He didn't say that. Here's the quote. He did say it. That's taken out of context. Here's the whole paragraph that he said. Well, that was cut up. Blah 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 blah. There are all these different kind of like back steps that a Trump supporter has to take when confronted with factual evidence. And I'm curious if you
He isn't doing anything to purify the blood. I mean, you're going to say that's not the main reason why
he's building concentration camps.
Wait a second. Do you know that there are all these terrorists who have come across the borders and some on the terrorist watch list, and people from China, people who want to see the destruction of America?
I agree with you. There are bad people here with bad intent, and I think they should be apprehended and removed, all of that to make us safer. I agree with you 100%. And he's using that attitude and that idea, which I think is part of any president's purview. You should be protecting Americans from any outside threats.
Right.
100% agree. He then takes that. They've rounded up all the criminals, and it's like, well, now who are we going to deport? Because to keep my power, I need to keep my base focused on an enemy. And once the enemy is gone, who becomes the next enemy?
No.
Yeah, now it's Antifa.
He does not have that concern that he has to find. No, that's not true. Let me just read you the diagnostic criteria so that you know that this is the real deal. Okay, I'll give you the mild case and the severe case, and if we have time for the moderate, we can do that too. All right, so a mild case, you have to have 3. This is like what I actually was part of the DSM schizoaffective schizophrenia, how to include that, whether to include that, where to include that, and all of that. So I've already been involved in the DSM. That was a while ago, but I know how the process. All right, so for a mild case, the person has to have 3 or more of the following. Okay. Reeling at the mention of Trump's name or songs associated with him, like YMCA and God Bless the USA, with a need to speak up with criticisms and expletives, yelling or throwing something at the TV when Trump appears, stammering when asked what's not to like about Trump, and an inability to come up with anything that makes reasonable sense, incapacity to be able to state what policy is objectionable or why, deflecting instead with statements like, oh, he's just awful, expressing hatred of Trump in TikTok rants, other social media posts, or public forums. And I said I gave you the examples, ladies of the View, Bruce Springsteen, the Pope. These are a couple of the examples. Alec Baldwin. Wait a minute. Where am I? No, I think. Okay, so mild. These are examples for mild. Okay, then I'll tell you moderate so you can. All right, moderate. As evidenced by 1 or more mild symptoms, so they have to have 1 or more of the mild symptoms and 2 or more of the following. The individual's life has been overtaken by TDS, interfering with work, family, and other relationships and responsibilities. Profound inability to distinguish between what one doesn't like about Trump's policies from what one doesn't like about him personally, and a hair-triggered temper outburst towards anyone who dares question this. An inability to calm oneself to prevent lashing out verbally and physically against supporters of the president. Engaging in some action to protest against Trump, such as joining marches or writing op-eds against him. Threatening, following, or assaulting people who wear MAGA hats or other MAGA clothing or carry MAGA collectibles. Committing road rage upon seeing a Trump bumper sticker on a vehicle. And examples are, Stephen King.
Wait, what did he do? I don't know about Stephen King's Trump Derangement Syndrome.
Renowned horror novelist forewarned in his 1979 novel, The Dead Zone, that a man would become president who would lead America into nuclear war. Though he denies having psychic powers that predicted Trump's presidency, he's happy to flaunt similarities with his huckster character, Greg Stilson, an evil rising politician. An outspoken critic of Trump from before his first term, King signed an open letter opposing his candidacy and says Trump's presidency is even scarier than his novels.
And so that's level 2 of this.
That's level
moderate.
2.
Okay.
Moderate. Right. Then let's see. Okay, FEMA supervisor. I'm just randomly picking examples. I have a whole bunch of examples for these people, for these characters, for these levels.
Where would you say does this rate anywhere on any kind of scale, ranking celebrities in terms of their opinions about political figures?
What could you say that again?
I'm just curious, like, does that rate on some kind of a scale for you? I know this isn't Trump derangement syndrome, and you don't claim that there's like an opposite version of it. But do you think there are like people who are so into Trump that they have a kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, a leftist derangement syndrome or whatever?
So liking Trump?
Yeah, like, is there a mental illness for literally burning the place down for Trump? Like, where you can't hear anything, you don't want to listen. It's you've identified your entire ego to Trump being successful,
yes.
like that.
I mean, there are people like that, and I guess one could try to make. I'm not going to be the one making a diagnosis for it, but yes, I guess one could do that. The opposite.
Okay. I was just curious.
Then I'll just give you another example for the FEMA supervisor, Marnie Washington, who told a disaster relief team to avoid providing assistance to hurricane-ravaged homes with MAGA signs out front during Hurricane Milton in Florida in 2024. She and 3 other employees were ultimately fired, but not before the damage was done. So that's another example.
That's terrific.
The fun, the severe cases, to be a severe case, you would have to have 1 or more mild symptoms, 1 or more moderate symptoms, and 1 or more of the following: quitting one's job or leaving one's family to be able to work full-time trying to stop Trump, leaving the U.S. in protest of Trump and establishing residence in another country, doing something illegal to try to stop Trump, such as bribing a judge to stop one of his executive orders, attacking someone's personal Tesla, a Tesla showroom or manufacturing facility by vandalism, arson, gunshots, Molotov cocktails, or the like, because Elon Musk, Tesla's co-founder and CEO, was appointed by President Trump as the head of Doge. Some incidents are being investigated, blah, blah, blah. Okay, doxing Trump supporters. Doxing is the act of revealing personal information about someone online without their consent and with nefarious intent. Doxing can incite swatting. Swatting Trump supporters by calling the police and making false reports of violent crimes happening at their home, causing the police to respond with guns blazing, terrifying the inhabitants, and putting all at risk of inadvertent death. Swatting is considered a crime. Fantasizing about harming Trump oneself, joining a nefarious group.
That's everybody, isn't it? That's like half the country. So you're basically saying there are 150 million people that have level 3 of this.
Well, because you only have to have one of each level.
Yeah, I know.
We're all doomed.
I started a podcast where I literally have turned it into a job to talk about how much I despise Trump to my parents who love him.
It's a great
where do
conversation.
I rank on this thing? I think doomed. I'm at the top level. I'm a new level, maybe.
That's interesting. Fantasizing about harming Trump oneself, joining a nefarious group plotting harm to Trump, or arranging for someone else to harm Trump, despite knowing that punishment would be severe. Well, that's a good point that you bring up about people fantasizing about harming Trump. If you only need to have one of these, maybe I'll think more about that. All right, so here are some examples. You'll see these examples. Mary Trump, President Trump's niece. She continues to be the most painful thorn in his side because she's family, albeit estranged. So she wrote all these books, and whines about Trump. Rosie O'Donnell, when she, there are lots of different things, but both of them, Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen DeGeneres, moved out of the country.
But you don't think Rosie O'Donnell was legit moving out of the country? Trump Trump is the one who has Rosie O'Donnell derangement syndrome, in my opinion. He's constantly attacking her, calling her names. Like if the president, who again is controlling essentially a Gestapo of ICE, can kidnap whoever he wants at any time, can indict James Comey on no evidence. I mean, I think
no
she did the smart
James
thing.
Comey is in my severe.
Okay.
Want me to tell you what I wrote about him?
Sure.
And
Bring it.
This is before he was indicted. I'm not really going to add anything about the indictment. That's where did it go? I have like 3 pages of examples of severe.
Mm-hmm.
Former FBI Director James Comey has long suffered from TDS, as evidenced by the way he dismissed Hillary Clinton's email scandal, yet relentlessly probed the Russiagate hoax. It accelerated after Trump fired him and came to a head with an Instagram post in which he pretended to come across a, quote, cool shell formation on my beach walk that read 8647. Despite Comey and others downplaying the significance of 86 as slang for only discontinued items or ejecting a patron, its meaning in law enforcement, military, and mafia circles is, quote, to have someone killed, unquote, and 47 refers to the 47th president. Comey's allegedly innocent post has unleashed a tsunami of copycat threats. So
I think that's
so
like the
interesting.
thing that really bothers me is when I went into the first Trump presidency, I remember waking up to him winning and going, let's do this. Mm-hmm. We got like, he's going to show up. He's going to be presidential. There's going to be guardrails and this is going to work. Mm-hmm. And then it just slowly kind of trickled away from what I was really hoping could happen. And then, this time it came, he won, and which was wild to me because that was just wild. Let me ask you this. That's a great question. What do you think about the hand counts that are being done where Kamala won, where she actually got no votes? What are your thoughts on, they now went back, they hand counted these counties. It came out that Kamala won bigly, and that Trump, for the election, it showed that she had absolutely zero votes in those counties. Like, what do you think about like things like that?
I really don't know about that enough to, I haven't heard.
It's happening in Rockland County. There's a lawsuit going through in New York that has all this evidence, basically. And it's kind of like a tangled web of Elon Musk was the one who was supplying the internet connection.
Starlink,
Peter Thiel owned the company that put software on the voting machines 3 days before the election without telling anybody. There's a lot of like stuff, I think, that still needs to be investigated, reported out, whatever. But it is an interesting point because Trump has floated the idea that the elections are rigged and he should have won in 2020, but something wasn't up. So he puts these ideas out there that an election can be rigged. His followers believe that. But then if the left says, well, this election was rigged too, now the left is crazy. But the right all believes the 2020 election was rigged.
Yes. Well, there is proof of that. But
well, we're giving you proof as well of the most recent one.
Well, okay. But in any case, I don't think there would be enough of that kind of thing to.
But
it was literally every swing state.
Yeah, but my point is he won every swing state, which is like impossible. My point to me wanting the best for Trump is that I look at all leaders, no matter who they are, that we should hold their feet to the fire. That is my job as an American citizen, is to hold his feet to the fire, challenge everything that they're doing, not follow blindly, because that's not being an intelligent person.
Sure.
So
I agree with that.
Right. So we should hold them accountable and question everything, right? And so when he comes out, and this makes me so sad, when he comes out and says, I hate my enemies, the stupid liberals, all of those things make me, on top of the policy, make me go, God, you're supposed to be our president, the whole totality. No matter if you like what I view or not, you're supposed to be my president. You are my president. And to have you look at me as a mom, as a wife, as a person, and say, I hate you. That to me.
Say that.
I can give you the exact date. Hang on a minute.
Was it in Mein Kampf? What do you mean? That he's saying he hates women who are mothers?
No, he hates Democrats. He hates his challengers. And it's upsetting
Well,
being
he said he hates his foes. I mean, he said that the other day at Charlie Kirk's memorial.
But
Yes,
that's
that wasn't
hard.
the
Like that's hard
There's
being a
multiple.
person.
There are all these different in a
There's
okay.
lots
campaign
of
I mean,
speech in
I'm not
Iowa
saying,
2 months ago.
I mean,
There's a bunch.
that did at Charlie Kirk's memorial. That did kind of rub me the wrong way. I was thinking this isn't really the place to say that kind of thing. I'm not saying he's a perfect man. I'm not saying he's perfect. I think he's the best president we ever had. But I don't say he's perfect. You know, there are
But a
some
president's
things
supposed to be my president. Like he's supposed to be my president.
well, no president says or does some things that everybody in America agrees with.
Well, I don't know of any president that's ever said that like he hates liberals. It's just really disheartening to be a person in this country and feel like what good can come from 100% tariffs on pharmaceuticals? Like these people that are on pharmaceuticals usually are barely affording them as it is. Like how is that a good thing for the people?
What he wants is to make more of these things produced in America. It's not like he's saying we're not going to have any more of it.
But in the
then I would say like a stepping stone. Like, hey, you've got 4 years, and you at the end of 4 years, at the end of my presidency, if you aren't XYZ, then we're going to implement. There's got to be runway. Like there's got to be runway for these tariffs for people to be able to create the bags that go in around oranges so that the prices of oranges, like there's, there needs to be runway for that. The American people aren't like October 1st, this is going into an account.
Yeah.
How are people going to afford this?
They're going to have to, or they die. And Trump doesn't care how they afford it. All he cares about is that money coming into the government, so he can then show you the balance sheet and be like, "Look how much money we made as a government."
To make America richer, we are in deep.
But Americans pay those tariffs.
The Americans are paying the tariffs. That's the problem.
All right. I just want to say, you were saying about in his first term that he didn't get a lot of things accomplished that you wanted him to get accomplished, or that he had said he was going to get accomplished, or something like that.
Well, I just thought he was going to like do the things. I don't know what things, but I thought that, hey, this is going to be, let's do this. Like I'm going to try to be on board with this.
But you know why some of the things that he wanted to get done didn't get done? Because of the dark state in Washington.
Doesn't matter. Then
and that's why he's rushing now. And I agree. I'll agree with one thing. The fact that he, like, even just at the inauguration, when he was signing, like, I think he signed 10 bills, executive orders. That's a lot. And they were, big things. I don't. And then he got into office, and then he was signing more things, because it's not like he waited until, when he was inaugurated. Well, I mean, yeah, he didn't wait until he was inaugurated to figure out the things that he wanted to sign as executive orders. So that's why these things were ready. Okay. So people, I will admit, one thing that's why some people don't like him is that he's doing things so quickly. It's like so much change. And, a lot of people are uncomfortable with change. It's like, wait a second, what's happening here?
But
I love change. I think the problem is
he's
tariffing, he's destroying the farmers, and now all of a sudden he's going to subsidize the farmers because that's the squeaky wheel. Like he didn't think through, if we put a tariff on China and then they stop buying all our soy, then the farmers don't have money. And if we stop Medicaid, then the hospitals don't have money. Then the hospitals close because 50% of hospitals' incomes is Medicaid. I just think that there's not a lot of forethought in how this is going to hurt, the Midwest and rural America.
I think there actually is. I think they're doing it on purpose. There's the idea that
why would they do it on purpose?
Because Trump wants to align with Russia, China, North Korea. He sees himself as a kind of Hitler-esque figure. I mean, that's clear. He said as much. I want to be a dictator.
He did say that. People like dictators.
The real thing that's going on here is Trump is making an insane amount of money, more than he's ever made. He has doubled his net worth in this calendar year. I'm sure you read the news about how the UAE gave him $2 billion. They bought $2 billion worth of his crypto coin. And then he gave them access to all of these high-level computer chips that they needed to build new infrastructure and whatever. Those chips weren't supposed to go to anybody outside the United States. They gave him $2 billion, and he said, here's your chips. He's taking open bribes from basically anybody who will give it to him, the Qatari plane, all of this stuff. And he's doing it in front of everyone.
I was against the Qatari. I am against the Qatari plane.
Yeah.
I don't think he should have taken that because we can't trust Qatar. I did a podcast, a terrorist therapist podcast, talking about how these places that he visited were very questionable, you know, as far as just how much of a friend they are to America.
He doesn't care. As long as they compliment him and give him his money, that's what he's really in this for, is to get his name on as many buildings and things as he can.
If that was all he was in it for, first of all, he had money before, but if that was all he was in it for, he wouldn't be putting his life on the line. And one of the reasons why he's rushing with things, besides that, his first term he was stopped from doing so many of the things that he wanted. He's rushing it because I think maybe unconsciously, maybe not consciously, but he realizes that his life is on the line. Like he is, there's a fatwa out on him. Iran put out a fatwa, meaning that, a bounty on his head, basically, but a religious bounty, more valuable than money. You're going to go to heaven and Allah is going to give you, you're going to be the best person. You're going to be received incredibly well when you go to heaven. So people there are lots of people who want to kill him.
But that's any president. That's any leader of any country. That's just part of that job. I don't know. I mean, I don't see this as something that is happening fast. I think this has taken 10 years to come to this point. And it's been a very long, slow, steady pacing and plotting by very rich people on the right to set up Project 2025, to replace all these federal judges here and there so they will bend to Trump's will, to get 3 Supreme Court justices handpicked by Trump to go on the Supreme Court and basically say presidents can't be prosecuted for any crime while they're president. That's insane. Yeah. He's literally above the law now. And he knows it. And so he's just doing these things it's open corruption. He took $2 billion from the United Arab Emirates and gave them computer chips. And because it's happening through his crypto money laundering thing, no one in Congress really understands it.
And I think they just got part of the bid for purchasing TikTok too. That same crypto situation with I think it was Dubai or Saudi. I can't remember which one.
Interesting.
And so they sold TikTok, and that person, that country that bought all that crypto coin of his, they now are part owner of the new TikTok sale. And this Heritage Foundation, this started way back. I was actually doing some research yesterday with regard to Israel. And this started way back in Reagan. The Heritage Foundation was involved. Like that, this stuff is a slow, and then they went from Reagan, TV star, to Trump. This is the problem. This is the honest to God issue. I don't think that Trump is doing any of this. I think they have him by the short hairs, and he's going to do and say whatever they tell him to, because this stuff is happening all behind the scenes. I think Trump is in it just to make some money and to get out, and he has no other choice.
I don't think he would be putting his life on the line every single day.
I don't think he has a choice. I think that Netanyahu has something on him. Trust. I think that there's a lot of people in in Europe. I hope so. I think that they all have something on him, and he knows it. And they're just, and Russia. They just had Netanyahu. Isn't he still in New York? They had the Russian people in his first term in the Oval Office. Like that's like what is happening on this planet. Putin. He's sitting there shaking hands with Putin. Like these are war criminals.
And he went to North Korea to shake hands with that
the war criminal.
That's how he's negotiating. The art of the deal. I have the art of the deal on my desk.
I read it as a child. When I was a tiny kid, my dad was like in finance and stuff in Texas, and I remember he did a lot of business dealings with one of Trump's like main guys, and he got me an autographed Art of the Deal. And I remember reading it cover to cover when I was probably like 8 or 9 years old, and being fascinated by it. But also being like slightly terrified. He did not seem like a nice guy in that book to me. Even as a kid, I kind of remember that, but it was my dream to be a stockbroker, on the floor of the stock exchange. Things changed as I aged, but no, I remember like he was an interesting celebrity kind of figure when I was a kid, because he kind of conveyed this idea of like New York wealth and opulence and everything for the deal and for the dollar and blah blah blah. He's become something different now though, and I think to your point, Meredyth, I don't think he cares about the policies or the politics, because there are so many interviews. There's one of him in the 90s saying if he were ever to run for president, he'd run as a Republican because Republicans are stupid. He used to be very pro-choice. He used to be extremely liberal.
And I think that I mean, if he ever did anything, I mean, I'm sort of, the jury is out as far as I'm concerned. I'm sort of watching about the abortion thing. Obviously, I'm pro-choice, so that's a questionable thing, in my mind. But again, it's like it's weighing what you get from what you like from what you don't like, and it's way over 90% that I like. So, but what you said, oh, you said something that made me. But well, I mean, I think it's been. I could talk to you for a lot longer. I didn't realize. You'll have to have me on your show. That no, maybe not.
I think you would like my parents. They would like you, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Do your parents live in New York?
No, they live in Oklahoma.
Oh, wow, huh.
And my sister lives in Dallas. I live in Los Angeles, and we all get on a phone call or a Zoom call basically for an hour every week, record it, and that's our little show.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's your show.
Yeah, we talk about like the big political issues of the week, basically.
Oh, that's very exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
That sounds greght. That's like a model of how families can stick together even if they have.
Well, you haven't seen the show. I don't know if it's a model for anyone, honestly. It's something, I'll tell you that much.
Well, I know you got to go, Dr. Liemberman. I appreciate you being on and being so open to Chad and I's questions. And I think I heard you say, I'm not sure about that one, just enough that I think we could turn you.
Oh, no. You won't be able to turn me, but I will say this. When I went to look at I hadn't looked at the American Psychiatric Association website in a long time. And because I used to be very active in the association, I started like a mini association. I started a chapter, I should say, but it was the first of any of these chapters for psychiatric residents, an APA chapter for psychiatric residents in Manhattan, and in New York City, all boroughs. And so I was on their public affairs committee. I was just all into the APA. And then, I kind of way before Trump, I sort of drifted away because of some of how they've changed a lot. They're very woke now. I was trying to say when I looked at even before I looked at their website, just articles that I read where they're all for transitioning and so on. So it's not my old APA. So they're very woke. So I don't know that they are going to, receive this with open arms. But I feel like somebody has to do it because there are just too many things happening. I mean, I mentioned do you know there were actually 4 attempted assassinations, not just the 2 recent ones that we know about, but there were 4. Did you know that?
The only ones I know of are the one on the campaign trail with the fight, and the guy on the golf course. Those are the 2.
There was also there was one in June 2016 on the campaign trail in Nevada Michael Stephen Sandford. He was 20 years old. He was a British citizen, and he attempted to grab a police officer's gun to shoot Trump. And then there was another one in North Dakota in 2017. Trump was due to give a speech at Endeavor Refinery. Gregory Lee Line Gang, 42, stole a forklift and attempted to drive it toward the presidential motorcade, intending to kill Trump by flipping his limousine with the stolen forklift. So, I mean, there's and it's just more and more people are out to get him. And so this Trump derangement syndrome is dangerous.
The same is true on the other side. There was a Minnesota congresswoman and her husband were literally killed by somebody who had a list of other Democrats they wanted to kill.
Yes.
This is not
I think that you need to look at the extremism. Have you looked into like Groypers, Dr. Lieberman?
Yes.
In relationship to Charlie Kirk and those folks, and there's people that are even more right than MAGA that think that MAGA aren't doing enough, actually.
Yes, but Trump isn't leading those people. So, well, all right. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about some of this.
No, thanks for talking. I sincerely appreciate anybody from the other side who's willing to sit down and talk about anything, because I do think having these kinds of conversations between people that have drastically different viewpoints on the current political spectrum in America is like, it's 100% necessary if this country is ever going to not be completely divided.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I appreciate both of you being on the podcast. Dr. Lieberman, Dr. Carole Lieberman, she's an author, Lions, Tigers, and Terrorists, oh my, and the podcast, a terrorist therapist, and Dr. Carol's Couch. And of course, my good friend Chad. This is his third podcast with me, so I appreciate him coming out. We're just gonna have to start our own separate podcast and just like do the thing. Sure. The Necessary Conversation podcast that he talks about politics with his MAGA parents and his amazing sister. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being open and listening. And I'll take every one of those. I'm not sure about that. So thank you so much, guys. And I'll see you here next week with more amazing guests. Have a good one. Thanks for listening. If you would like to connect on a more personal level, head over to meredythwillits.com or on Instagram at Meredyth with a Y for behind-the-scene footage and outtakes. Please subscribe and come back each week for more Meredyth with a Y. Thanks again for listening. Cheers.